I've got us live on the internet. Are you...
Do we have a title?
The title is Magic, PAX East, and Being an Online DM. Figured I'd keep it concise. Sound alright?
Sure.
Cool. Alright. So the topics are Joseph Judging, PAX East, and online DMing. Cool. Cool.
I'm sending out the tweet.
Nice.
No, that's... I'm missing the slash. There we go.
I'll wait to start the music till after the tweet's out.
The tweet is out. I don't know who we've got in Twitch so far who's had an opportunity to tune in. I've just not got the notification that we're live.
Aha.
I really do need to... Sorry, I got distracted. I really do need to... What was I going to need to do? Oh, I need to send you updated banners and stuff.
Yeah, that would help. If you want me to make an update, just let me know what they are.
Just like whatever our favorite profile pictures are of late. Good ads playing for me.
This is odd. It's not letting me... I'm trying to enter stuff in the chat, but it says that I'm not logged in. I'm like, if I'm not logged in, then how am I possibly streaming? There we go, that was weird. That was very weird. Sorry about that. Okay, ready?
No, I'm not ready. Something weird is going on.
Alright, what can I do about it?
I don't know, let me see. Okay, it's not happening anymore. Okay.
We good?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I sound good?
You sound okay to me.
Yes. No problems on my end for you.
Here we go. I said, here we go. This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game. Hello and welcome to the Player 4 Podcast. I'm your host, Tristan, aka Shagrazier on the Rooster Teeth website.
I'm Malachi, aka Suki Kiba.
Alex isn't here, Malachi.
It's true. Alex isn't here. Who are you, though?
Is Malachi alive?
Yeah, he spoke. Is he not coming through on your end?
It must have been really quiet.
I can hear him. I don't know why you can't hear him. That's unfortunate. I thought that you were hearing him. Malachi, would you mind reconnecting?
Yep.
So you can introduce yourself, Joseph.
Oh, okay. I'm Joseph from the Player 4 Podcast, and on the Rooster Teeth website, which is what we also signify our usernames, I am Jay Dunlap.
Very precise.
How's
So,
this?
you back, Mel?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear him now, Joseph?
Yes.
Okay.
So, a couple of topics for today. We don't have an Alex because he's off watching the Blues, because the Blues are always more important to him than us. But I wanted to make Joseph tell us a little bit about his Magic experience right now, because I know that's an important part of his life, something he gets a lot of enjoyment out of, so I want to know what's going on. I want to be involved. The only piece of relevant news from my neck of the woods is that PAX East dates got announced, and then Joseph wanted me to talk a little bit about what it's like being an online DM for D&D and how things have progressed since I began. There you go.
Woo!
So, Joseph, tell us about Magic. Whatever you feel like you are free to say.
So my stance has always been, because we're talking about Judge Academy here, yet again, my stance has always been that as long as one is respectful, there is no incorrect take on Judge Academy. There's no wrong way to feel. There's no wrong opinions. So I'm going to feel free to say what I want to say, but I am going to give a caveat that I'm not 100% informed about what's going on. So what you're hearing is what I have heard. And first and foremost, I want to reiterate that the release of Judge Academy was rushed by Wizards of the Coast. They said by October, we are going to cease dealing with the Judge program at large, which meant that they needed to come up with a new program. That's when Tim Shields, owner of Cascade Games in Portland, Oregon, came up with an idea to replace the Judge program with something called Judge Academy, which is a certification platform where you can get, learned, you can get schooled, and then you can certify not just in Magic, but eventually in other games that come out in the future that say, "Hey, we want to have judges too. Judge Academy, what you got for me?" And they'll come up with a curriculum. So that was rushed to come out yesterday, October the 1st, because Wizards said that's when it needs to come out. It is a for-profit organization. The reasoning for that has not been made clear. Just a weird oddball reason concerning not wanting to be not nonprofit because they didn't want to receive charitable donations that could go to Red Cross, which is kind of a weird reason, but also a more legitimate reason, I suppose, but I can't check the I can't fact check it, is that a lot of game companies want to work with profit organizations, not nonprofit organizations. So here we are with a for-profit organization that is a certification body, not a union, nothing like that. We are customers buying a product, just like a lawyer or a CNA would. However, their certification costs a lot less and lasts more than a year. Certification for a judge through Judge Academy to upkeep their certification is $100 per level, unless you're level 3, in which case it's 400 up front. So I posted on Twitter on my birthday, actually, 2 days ago, that this was my last day. That was my last day to be a certified judge. Not my last day to be a judge, but a certified judge. Now, there's something called legacy level, which I'll get to, which is different from being certified through Judge Academy. Officially, no one for a brief moment in time was a certified judge yesterday. I mean, to keep that status. So that's basically what that means. So my stance, and I've already given caveats, and there's a little bit of bias, is that I could not personally justify nor afford $200 to maintain a certification when legacy level exists, and I don't know what I'm getting for my money beyond what I was already getting. And it was uncertain because they haven't really, because they had to rush their release, they couldn't really promise much. We didn't know what we were going to get. So legacy level is essentially what level you were when these certifications all essentially lapsed on October 1st. And that matters because it signifies the work you put into your certification prior to October the 1st. And I put a lot of work in my certification. I achieved level 2 in circa 8 months, maybe less than that, 7 months, around there. and I have developed a reputation as a judge in the Magic community. I know what I'm doing, and I've even had communication from judges saying they want to continue to work for me and hire me regardless of whether I'm certified through Judge Academy. So legacy level matters. Now, Tristan did, posit a concern months ago when this was first announced that there was a possibility one day maybe they would only accept Judge Academy. So far, TOs have not said so. The big TOs, of course, being tournament organizer, what that means, tournament organizer, TO. So far, Channel Fireball and Star City Games have a stance that they're not going to hire based off of Judge Academy. They're going to hire based off of what they know about judges, if they've already worked with them. And then short of that, of course, if you're a new judge and you go through Judge Academy, at least then it's known that you went through the curriculum. So that does matter in some ways. So all that to say, I did not pay the $200 yesterday, but there is a chance of something happening where I can still get certified through it. I don't care if I'm certified through it. However, there are some positives I want to be fair and list. Before I list the positives, I'm going to list the negatives. That way we can end on a good note. The negatives are they did not know, or if they knew, they did not communicate that in some countries, especially in Europe, there would be a tax on paying this fee. So we're talking you save up $200 when the announcement goes out, and that's not easy for most people. And then on the day that you go to pay, it says, now where's the $50 for tax?
Yeah.
And you go, what? I'm talking like the meme where the girl goes, the what?
Yeah.
Basically, that is there's a tax because either they didn't know about it or they knew, but they didn't think it would bear mention. But it totally bears mention.
Yeah.
That's the one bad thing. The other bad thing I'm aware of is the same thing that happened with the old judge website that has been defunct for over 2 years at this point, called Judge Center, where you would occasionally get quizzes, tests, that sort of thing, where the answers are wrong, and that happened on day one, where people were noticing incorrect answers on things, and that's an easily fixable thing. Hopefully, it's a priority to fix that thing because it's a certification body. But whatever, grumble, grumble. So now let's talk about the positives. They're going to, with their revenue, hire people to create content. Ideally, they're going to hire people who are already doing it, but to my knowledge, I don't know if that's happening. I don't know whether they're hiring based off of, hey, we know and like you, or whether they're hiring based off of, hey, you get this really kick-ass presentation that you've been doing at judge conferences. Can you make a video of it and we'll pay you $2,000? I don't know, but I do know that someone's going to get paid some amount of money to make content. Some multiple someones. It's hard to communicate that when I'm talking and not typing. Some multiple someones will make material for the curriculum essentially, and that's a good thing. And also, when you present at a conference and you've got a presentation, a PowerPoint, and all that, and you're like, hey, let's learn about this thing. What happens with this card does this thing, and then the current system is that if you do that, you not only get the packet of judge foils, which are worth anywhere from $10 to $120 usually, each individual card. You get a packet of them for attending, but you also get an extra packet as presenter or member of the organizational staff. Now, the new system apparently is going to be that you'll get paid to present at the conferences, which I think is pretty awesome because I've seen some pretty awesome presentations, and it's just people doing it for the love of it. So the hope is through Judge Academy, you'll get paid to do all these awesome things that you've already been doing for the love of it, because perhaps Tim Shields is a great guy, trustworthy, and came in and said, I don't like that judges have to volunteer. I want to have a way to pay them. The only way I can do that is if I charge this membership fee with this amount of judges paying the membership fee. That is optimism. And that's what's going on with Judge Academy. And as I said, I don't know everything and every opinion is valid, but that's where I'm at the moment. I see both sides of it.
I don't know. It's tough for me because especially the way it ends up like mathing out. It sounds a lot like you're paying so that they can just give you your money back if you work. They're not actually paying you. It's like they're borrowing the money and then giving it back to you until you do work. I don't know. That's just how it
So
sounds to me, and I am much less optimistic than you. But so that's my caveat, is that I'm
I
not a
get
nice
what you're
person.
saying, which is paying to be part of an organization that you are working for.
Yeah.
But if you view it as contract work for an organization that also happens to give you your certification, it makes a little more sense.
I suppose. I suppose. It's one of those things that's a little harder for me to relate to because I'm a contractor. I get paid for the work I do. The contract agency that hires me out gets paid for the work I do, but not by me. So I'm given an hourly salary, and I know that whatever my hourly, like, I'm told I agree to the hourly at the beginning of everything. So, they say we'll pay you this much hourly. I say okay. What I don't know is what they're actually charging the company they contract me to, which is, imagine an extra like 30% on top of my hourly. So that's something I've run into problems with only once in my position, where I had a company being like, "You're very expensive," and I'm like, "Well, I'm getting paid this, which is below market value," and it's like, "Oh." Then the contract company is taking a big share because it's making you not affordable. I'm like, oh, cool. So it comes out of my pay, but it comes out of part of my pay that I don't know exists. So I guess I feel better about it. It's it's a little
That's
bit
just
of a different situation.
that sounds like a sentence you never thought you'd say.
Yeah, it
Part of your
definitely
pay you
is.
never knew existed.
It's part of my pay I never knew existed. It's a part of the whatever the company gets charged to have me there, that I don't see the surcharge. So yeah, I mean, I get it, and I hope that it all works out for you. I hope it's good. It sounds odd numbers wise to me.
Oh, it totally is. I'm just hoping that it results in something that's better than the old system. I liked the old system, but I wasn't one of the people giving my blood, sweat, and tears to make it work.
Yeah.
So what's next on the docket?
Next on the docket was PAX East, and that's mostly just because I didn't have much else news to get, but I just received an email saying that PAX East is coming in February of next year, the 22nd and 23rd, to Boston. I'm sorry, February 27th, not 22nd. February 27th through March 1st, 2020 for Boston. That's always held at the BCEC. I go pretty much every year to the Saturday day of the event. And I have a lot of fun. Like, it's a pretty big venue, and there's a lot to see. There's a lot of vendors for any number of things. You get to see indie games. You get to see, there are people just selling general wares for these kinds of things, whatever they can get away with selling. Like one of the unusual discoveries I made there was Volante, which makes cool canvas clothing. Um, high end kind of stylish clothes I never would have expected
Volante.
from Volante from a video game convention.
For the people out there, Tristan, what is PAX East? Yeah. What is
PAX East is it's a video game convention. It started as PAX in California, or actually, I think it started in Washington. I think PAX Prime's in Washington, if I remember correctly, which was Penny Arcade Expo. It was started by the guys who wrote and ran the Penny Arcade webcomic website, and that was begun more than 10 years ago, I think. So they ran the popular webcomic series, and then it became just a way for them to get their sponsors more FaceTime with their audience. So they had this convention where all the people who were, paying to keep their comic going got to have booths, and it just sort of grew from there. And now it's kind of like its own mini E3. Like, certain game developers, and especially indie developers, will show up to show off product they're developing and give people a first look at that kind of stuff for the weekend.
All right, thank you. I just was just for people who might not know what it is.
And then in other ways, so it's a video game convention, and in other ways it works a lot like an anime convention. You know, it kind of hits all the notes in nerd culture, video games, board games. You know, lots of dice, lots of anime, and lots of people in costume. I remember that Riot used to always have a booth, and then after a while they started hiring on from the community cosplayers who were making costumes just in their own free time of the characters from their game League of Legends. I don't remember if I saw a Riot booth last time I was there. I don't really know what's going on with Riot these days. But that's the kind of thing you expect to see when you go to PAX. Just to give you an idea.
Well, that's cool. It's nice that you're looking forward to it.
I am. I like to go for just one day. I used to go to all these conventions for the whole time, and it was a nice escape from reality. Now it's a little overwhelming. It's just like, I just need one day to kind of see the sights and then get the heck out of the crowds.
Yeah, they can be pretty packed.
Yeah, well, I mean, PAX East in Boston is, 90,000 people a day, I think. So, it's pretty big. It's a lot of people to deal with. So yeah, if you had any questions about that, Joseph, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can move on to the last topic.
I don't have any questions. It is interesting that it was originally Penny Arcade Expo, considering that the entire point of it existing has changed.
Yeah, kind of. As far as I know, it's even still run by Penny Arcade. Like, PAX is still Penny Arcade Expo. Just the focus of the show, like, I never see events that are specifically about anything going on with Penny Arcade.
No, I'm not saying it's not it's a bad thing. I think it's great that they started a convention that now is an integral part of the convention circuit.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that whenever a PAX happens in any part of the country, that there are Magic tournaments being run by Pastimes, I believe, and they hire an entire staff of judges.
Dang. And have you ever worked with Pastimes?
I have not. I've only worked with Cascade, and they do all the other conventions. I did South by Gaming last year, and this year I did DreamHack Dallas with them.
But they ran it all right? You were happy with it?
My first experience was not so great. Second experience was pretty decent.
Okay. I know it's the question nobody wants to answer because they don't want to say bad things, but I always want to know.
I'll be honest. Like, it was a pretty good run show at DreamHack. They've got a new judge manager who's a really sweet person, and it was overall a fun experience.
Excellent. That's good to know. Ever since becoming a guardian, and being behind the scenes, you get to understand that it's a lot of work, and, not everybody's desires get met in the final product. And so there's a lot of work is put in, and then a lot of compromises are made.
As long as Alex gets to take the picture of saying RTX is closed, I'll be happy.
RTX is capped.
That's it, yeah.
He does love that. It's true. But we were a little worried about that, actually. To digress for a moment, we weren't sure if like I say, waited so long to make any announcement if there was going to be an RTX 2020, but we got that announcement, so I think some people are breathing a sigh of relief.
So we got a few minutes here before we are done with our broadcast, Tristan. I want to lead into our final topic by asking you a question, which was the question I asked before we went live.
Yeah.
Essentially, so Tristan, you started off by You've talked about it on the podcast before. You started DMing because people asked you to DM for them.
Yep.
And that's how the Everybody Loves Riken campaign began, and that has been your project ever since.
Yes.
You went from not DMing to DMing via Skype, and then eventually over to Discord. Literally, like, not functionally, pretty much the same thing as far as voice chat is concerned. But eventually, you wanted to start live streaming it. So then we got Everybody Loves Riken,
Yes.
and the format, the visually speaking, has been contingent upon the fact that they were doing a dungeon crawl the entire time. So I would like to know, what has it been like for you along that journey? What were the challenges, and how are you going to proceed?
Well, I think to answer the question first and foremost, I would say what it's been like is a kind of a wild ride, because it has been absolutely, I would say, the definition of a passion project, where I had written several years ago the beginnings of some world building and a small, short little plot. And so when I got asked by some people on the forums, hey, we saw Heroes and Halfwits and we want to try playing D&D, we've never done it before, I was like, beyond Shadowrun, I've never done this before, but I see an opportunity to try and actually finish that world building, actually build that world. So there's been a lot of love, there's been a lot of long hours planning things out, and then there's been a lot of flying by the seat of my pants, just hoping everybody's having fun. And I think I want to focus on that as the answer, is that it's always been the first and foremost in my mind has been trying to make a story that will be fun to play through. A story that will feel rewarding and allow the players to feel heroic. The challenges along the way have definitely been scheduling, although I will say that I think I dodged a bullet a bit at the beginning by kind of laying down the law and saying, here's what I'm willing to do. If I'm going to DM this, my requirement is that it's going to be a weekly thing. We are going to meet on the same day every week at the same time, and that time is going to be based on my schedule. And so if you can't do it, I'm sorry, but you can't be in the game. And that's not there's anything wrong with you, that's not I don't want to work with you, that's just this is my requirement if I'm going to DM. And I've been lucky that the players that have stuck it out for the 3 years, have managed to make that a priority very consistently. We've only missed, a handful of weeks, since the conception of the game. So, while that is a challenge, I think that I have been lucky in that it was handled graciously by the players involved, and it is always that. It is a working relationship and a series of compromises between you and your players. I was a bit uncompromising on the time, but I think that ultimately, my personal feeling is that ultimately that stricture that I implemented helped make the game, give the game the longevity it's enjoyed, which I'm happy about. I'm very happy about. The other thing was communication devices, finding ways to get in touch with the players in between games. Luckily, we've gotten to a point where people kind of know what's up when they need to be around, so there isn't a whole lot of announcing or having to get in touch with players in between. I have a system on Discord now where I can put out announcements if somebody tells me, well, they can't make it to a game because XYZ, say, okay, sorry, we're going to postpone or cancel to, reconvene next week. I can just put that on the Discord channel, and for the most part, those messages get read and understood, and everything is copacetic. With Skype, we had just audio issues, communication issues, which is why we eventually made the changeover to Discord. Skype just sort of worked itself into the ground. That wasn't anybody's specific fault. And then the reason that we have the podcast now was it was a matter of necessity. because I was living in Airbnbs, and in order to run a game on like Roll20 or Map Tool, which is another resource I like to use for presenting players with the map and tokens that they can move about, was that I needed to be able to port forward, which I couldn't do if I wasn't the owner of the router, which in an Airbnb you're not. So I said, well, rather than trying to get a hold of the router, which that's not really feasible, I can stream instead. And it allowed me to build maps in an environment that I was a little more comfortable with, which was Excel. It allowed me to be a little less detailed, but I could get my grids right and really focus on kind of getting the information there without having to worry about the artwork. And so we didn't... I really feel bad that the only archive of everything that's happened up until the live stream podcast began is what I've written down, and I've done a pretty decent summary, because I write a new summary of every session every week, but I would wish that I had recordings of those first few episodes, and honestly everything in between. The story has been such a cool, development, watching it grow from... everybody started at level 1. Players joined, players left as their schedules allowed. We had player characters, introduced. We had player characters die. And it's just really been this wild ride. I'll keep using the phrase. It's been kind of a wild ride for me, for the story, for the characters. I wish there was a way to watch everything that had happened. But I want to continue broadcasting after they get out of the dungeon. My main concern moving forward is, what am I going to display? Because while they're in the dungeon, I'm displaying the Excel sheet. I'm displaying the dungeon. There's something for them to look at and refer to. After that, it's going to be kind of like the podcast. I'm going to kind of choose either an image or a set of images, and just sort of display those in static while I'm going, which feels a little sad after such a long time being able to show, this very intricate labyrinth that I designed for them to move through. Now it's going to go back to, okay, you're world wandering, you're globe trotting. I don't have images for all that, but I'll find a way to make it work. So that's kind of what's on my mind, is where we go after this, how that's going to look, and trying not to worry about it too much.
Yeah, well, you also have a very fun and open DM style, which makes a big difference with that, because you always make it our decision on what to do, so that leaves us to go in any direction. If you did more of a linear style or kind of a directional DMing, you could have stuff already made up, but...
Yeah, but I mean, and that's a good point, is that I've never really wanted that. I've always wanted the players to be in control of what happens. I want the players writing the story. I created the world, I create the NPCs that you interact with, but I want you guys telling me what happens. I want you guys being the heroes. So I like having it very open-ended. That's how I want it, is, alright, here's the world, here's a bad thing that's happening, here's another bad thing that's happening, and here's maybe a minor bad thing that's happening. What do you do? What's important to you? How do you guide this world's fate?
So if people are interested in what to do once Tristan's done it a bit, of a style to do if you're going to play or do it his way, watch our stream.
And you can see that every Tuesday, pretty much every Tuesday, with exception for when people can't make it, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, on the twitch.tv/P4 podcast. Everybody loves Riken.
Is that really true?
Does everybody love Riken? I think at the moment there's a lot of people who are not too happy with Riken.
Riken's not happy with Yukikaze.
And after episode 22, after episode 21 rather, Alex had proposed renaming the podcast to Everybody Loved Riken, because that was the one in which I had led the players to believe they had died. So that was entertaining. It was a very stressful week, I'll tell you that. When you want to script a segment of your game and the script includes players appear to die, try and make sure everybody has time for perhaps an extended session so you can get through and let them know, appears to die is not the same as actually dying. Really just wanted to increase stress for a moment and get some drama in there. Because if you have to go on a week-long cliffhanger, people get upset. So, for all of you up-and-coming DMs with intricate storylines where you're like, oh, that could be cool, maybe I'll rig it up so they think they're dead, and then it turns out they're not, try and get the part where they're not out in the same session.
Yeah.
Or tell them not to worry about it. Maybe beforehand, be like, don't be concerned too much with the ending of today's session, because you won't, because it's all. I've already got a plan for what we're gonna do next week.
That's kind of a spoiler, though.
I mean, I always remind the players, I have a plan. I have a plan. Things might seem bad. Play it out. Play it through. There's a plan. Sometimes that's enough, and players are cool. And sometimes they really are trying to see through to what you're thinking, and it can be stressful for all parties involved. So it comes down to the relationship that you as a DM have with your players, and doing stuff like that will put stresses on that relationship. So it's just, communicate. Communication is key. Communication is always key. Make sure you're talking to your players. After every session, I always ask people, so what did you like? What didn't you like? Did you have fun? That's a big question. Was it fun? Regardless of, like, oh, I took damage, oh, I went down, luckily they got me up. Regardless of what happened during the session, did you have fun? And I usually get yeses, which is good. But I always press further and say, what was fun? Like, what was the coolest thing that happened? What was the scariest thing that happened? And I want to get a feel for the elements of the gameplay that the players are enjoying, the elements of the gameplay that they'd like to see more of, because that helps guide decisions I make when writing out segments or when plotting and scheming for things I might want to have happen. So, communicate with your players and try and keep tabs on who's having fun and what is fun for them so that you can capitalize on that more.
Yeah, you can get all kinds of answers like the combat was fun, the roleplay was fun, what are you doing in my house while I'm asleep?
Yeah. So...
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
I don't own a Wendy's, and I would be very concerned if I found my players in my house while I was asleep, but I suppose if they came with questions, I would be willing to answer them and then find out what they're doing in my house while I'm asleep.
I meant more like you said that, you ask them if they had fun, and they say yes, and you say what was fun about it, and I immediately had this thought of, like, you're in their house at 2 a.m. asking them what was fun about the game.
I mean, sometimes it does get that late. Like with yesterday's session, we usually try to end our weekly soft cap is 10:30, giving us about a 3-hour game. Barring people coming late and pushing the start time back a little bit, it usually gives us about a 3-hour game. Fighting, especially with a party of 7 players, takes a while. So in the session where I led the players to believe that they were killed, they had been doing a combat against each other. And so that was just the players, not even any, like, NPCs controlled by me. That was just the players fighting each other. That took 2 hours. So when we did this boss fight, which needed to be sufficiently epic, sufficiently dramatic, sufficiently scary, that ended up being a 5-hour fight. And so we ran until a little after midnight, and then my players always need to decompress a bit after that, so I like to sit and talk to them and get their thoughts at that point. So I'm on call until 2 a.m. trying to make sure everybody's, in a good mindset, having a good time, and understanding what worked and what didn't work. So,
Sounds good. Malachi. Hey, Malachi.
Yes.
What's our last topic?
shadow topic.
It's the secret track at the end of the album.
I think I think each letter starts with G, T, F, O, H.
Get the fudge out of here.
No! Get the flip out of here.
Oh, us. Okay.
I guess we're flipping out.
Yeah, we're flipping out. That was a fun episode. I enjoyed learning about your journey as a DM, Tristan.
Thank you. I like to get to talk about it, and I hope that, when we chat about stuff like that, it helps other people who want to get into it, or just if it provides any tips or tricks for people who are doing it to do it and have more fun. All right.
Maybe
So,
next week or the week after, I'll talk about a campaign that I'm starting up.
there you go. Is this one actually going to be D&D?
Yes, 3-5.
Whoa ho ho! All right, you
Old
definitely
school.
need to tell me about that.
All right. See you later, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
Hashtag goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Alex.
Good night, everybody. I'm watching hockey.
He is. So much hockey.
He posted on Facebook that when they unfurled the flag, he got tears.
I am
I
glad
wonder if he likes hockey.
I am glad that there is something he enjoys so much.
Ouch.
It's not my game. I'm not jealous.
Yeah.
You're jealous of his love for hockey.
I mean, he really loves hockey. I need to find someone who looks at me the way Alex looks at the ice rink.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to take a dump. See you, everyone. Goodbye.